Welcome to another Black Bikes Babble. Here's a story as to why it is good to have a bike shop that you trust, a local bike shop who knows what they're doing, whose opinion you can trust. Because I'm on everybody's favorite trail in Tucson, Arizona called Bug Springs, and I got a blown out tire. And it's a bit of a story. I am on a ride with my patron Tara, and she's awesome, and we're shredding and we're having good times, and we're sessioning the waterfall on bugs. And it's all fun and games. And I have a tire with a plug in it. Granted, probably not best practice, but I'm frugal and poor. Don't want to throw away a tire just because it has a tiny hole in it. And those plugs, I know them to hold for a long time. I've been riding plugs for weeks at a time. Many runs with plugs in them until you finally throw the tire away because it's worn out. So these weren't worn out. I bought those in the store. I'm not going to name the store because that's not my style. That's not Black Bike style. So I'm on a road trip and I need a new tire. Because what happened before was that I was at a bike park and properly slashed open the tire. It was bad. So I needed a new tire. And I paid $110 for a Maxxis tire. And then they wanted $15 for mounting the tire. And I was like, you know what? If I have a set of spare tires in my car, it's not going to happen again. So I went to a bike shop and they had a wall of Maxxis. And I'm like, well, Maxxis are a little expensive. What about those Continentals? And the guy said, well, you know, people like them. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, they're like about half price of what a Maxxis tire is. And I wonder if there's a reason for that. And he goes, oh, you know, you buy a brand. People like Maxxis. I'm like, have you ridden the Trail Kings? And he's like, yeah. They're fine, they're good tires, nothing wrong with them. I'm like, okay. Knowing from road riding, a Continental is definitely a reputable brand. They make some of the most renowned commuter tires. They are all the way up there in quality. It's not a no-name, it's not a cheap Chinese knockoff company. I have to keep checking my 6 because this is the part of Bug Springs where people bomb down. Like really fast. Gosh, hiking all this is really interesting, but I digress. So he's like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, okay. They were half price of the Maxxis. So the Maxxis was like about $90 and the Trail Kings were 45 a pop. So I'm saving $100 by getting the Trail Kings, right? I'm like, okay. And then I had him in my car because the Maxxis lasted for a long time and blah. I finally put him on. And as I put my rear tire on, I really have a hard time putting it on because it's so tight. I thought Maxxis are the ones that are so tight. And I put it on and I just cannot get it to seal. I can't just, there's always something coming out of somewhere. And suddenly I realize it's coming out through the spokes. So I go to a different bike shop in a different town, still on the road trip. Because I know I don't have any tubeless tape. In their defense, this is July, August 2020, at the height of there is absolutely no supplies, there's no parts, there's no bikes. The whole supply chain has broken down. Nobody has anything. I walk in there and I'm like, hey, I need a rim tape job real quick. And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I picked the tire up after a cup of coffee or something. They were like, come back in an hour. And it's lovely, it's seated, it's holding up. Then I pinch flatted it, put a plug in there, put a second plug in there. They're holding up. I do not like them. Even as the tires are functioning, I really don't like them. They're not grippy on the loose sandy stuff that we have here. They're okay in the mud actually. They're okay on wet grounds, but they don't grip on rocks. I slip, I have trouble climbing, I have all kinds of issues. But again, I'm broke and frugal. So I want to ride them out. I want to ride them until they're done. I want to ride my tires until they're worn down. So I have a couple of plugs in there. Fine, I go to the Chump Trail with Riding Dirty. You find the video up here. They're like, dude, you're jumping with plugs? I'm like, yeah, I ride with plugs all the time. Right, fast forward to today. I'm riding behind Tara and I thought to myself, before she came, I was like, I really should change those tires. I have a visitor coming. I don't want any mechanicals. I don't want to be stuck on a trail, having to plug the tires or even put a tube in or something stupid. It takes forever. They're coming down for a ride. They're not coming down to watch me fix my bike. So I ride behind Tara and she's shredding. I'm like, dude, wow, okay. you're on the first time. This is like a blind run for you, and she's killing it. And I'm so close behind her. I'm well too close behind her. I see the rock that I'm about to hit. I'm just a little too late on the bunny to hop over it, and I hit it. Doing, I hear it. I'm like, uh-oh, that might be another plug. And sure enough, as I hit the end of that short run, I'm completely flat in the back. I'm like, oof, okay. Whew, this is tricky. This is tricky hiking. This is easy on a bicycle. So I'm stopping, and Tara's coming back, and we're doing everything. I try the plugs. I try the third, the fourth, and fifth plug. You know, strips of bacon. It starts leaking from the rim, as if the tire's not seated anymore. I'm like, okay, this is weird. Tara's like, do you have a tube? And I'm like, yeah. All right, let's put a tube in. All right. We're trying to get those Trail Kings off. And I've helped out in a bike shop. I don't call myself a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, but I know how to change a freaking tube. The two of us are wrestling that tire like our life depends on it. Nothing, no dice. There's always something leaking, always something weird. So I realized my tube has a pinch flat because we had to work it so hard to get it onto the rim. So we patch it, doesn't work. And working those tires is a chore. Getting those Trail Kings on and off the rim is like hard work. And I have the good tire levers. Usually I don't even need any tools. Like to get a Maxxis on and off my rim, I don't need a tool. Well, anyway. So we take the tire on and off, I think 4 times. Tara, she also has a tube in even the right diameter because we're both riding 27.5. So I'm using her tube. And then her tube gets popped. And we take a closer look. The bike shop that did my rim tape job, they used Gorilla Tape. And you know what? I'm not saying Gorilla Tape doesn't work. I'm saying it's asinine. I'm saying it's a home improvement DIY solution if you don't have anything better or don't want to use anything better. And if you never want to pop a tube in there. Because you know what happens with the Gorilla Tape glue? It eats tires. It's very aggressive on rubber. Also, it flakes out. Gorilla Tape gets flaky. And the tube that is squeezed in there and pumped full of air and stretched out, it's easily punctured by Gorilla Tape. Also, if a tire gets unseated and there is Gorilla Tape there, there's no way you can correct that. Not on the trail anyway. And last but not least, Gorilla Tape is really hard to get off. So you'll end up using like rubbing alcohol and whatnot to get that shit off. So, to summarize, I went to one bike shop that I don't trust who sold me cheap shit tires and didn't tell me they're cheap shit. He not once asked me, what do you ride? Not once. Not once asked me, do you just roll through the sand dunes? Or do you send double blacks? Because the Trail King is not a tire to be sending rocky double blacks. He sold it to me anyway. And then I went to another bike shop that I don't trust. And I get it. They were probably out of rim tape and couldn't get any supply chain and stuff. Sure, that's fine. Tell me. If you're about to use Gorilla Tape on my bike, tell me. Because I'm gonna be like, you know what? I can do that. I don't need you guys for that. So 2 bike shops in a row. Oh God, yeah, I forgot to tell that part. So the guy at the resort who sold me a tire for $105 and then wanted 15 to mount it, he did not know what he was doing. He didn't know how to work a GX derailleur. He was a noob. He knew less about wrenching on a bike than I did. So 3 mechanics in a row that kind of sort of fucked me over and led to the problem of me being stuck on a trail and having to walk out of it while a person that I would like to treat with the utmost respect is waiting and being so good. She was so awesome. She was such a great sport. So other than me having to hike, which, there's worse thing in the world than having to walk, there's no real grievance because I really never liked those tires. The Continental Trail King, and I'm not trashing Continental, it's a great tire company. I've toured on snakeskins, I've commuted on their slick tires. They have a bunch of really good tires. The Trail King is great if you wanna pedal through the woods and not think about much. Go for a ride. But if you want to shred, if you're dealing with rock gardens and sharp Arizona rocks, crystalline stuff, if you're dealing with cactus, if you're dealing with anything that pinches and punches through rubber, don't get the Trail King. It's light, it's not heavy duty, the sidewalls are paper thin, and they're not grippy, at least not on loose stuff. So just heads up, if you're somewhat serious about your mountain biking, don't get the Trail Kings. They are, if anything, a light duty tire. So I'm guessing the moral of the story if you're looking for any, is once you find a bike shop that you trust, that's your people. Treat your bike shop with respect and love. Bring them snacks, bring them coffee, bring them beer, whatever's their poison, because life would be a lot harder without a good LBS. I hope you enjoyed this babble. Thanks for watching. Pedal hard.